Extreme heat warnings across southeastern Australia, record-breaking temperatures expected, flooding continuing through far north Queensland, and tropical cyclone signals developing for early February. That is what we're dealing with today. I've analysed the latest from the Bureau of Meteorology, examined the forecast models, and reviewed current conditions across the country. What we are seeing is a significant weather pattern that demands your attention, particularly if you are in Victoria, South Australia or southern New South Wales. Let me start with what's happening right now, because understanding where we are helps explain where we are heading. The pressure pattern across Australia is about as low as it gets. Apart from one high-pressure system sitting out in the Indian Ocean, we're re-looking at widespread low-pressure activity right across the continent. The remnants of ex-tropical cyclone Luana are still holding together impressively over central Western Australia, moving south with scattered showers and thunderstorms. That system still has quite a bit of energy in it. Up in northern Queensland, we've got tropical low 18U that's been on the radar for several days now. It's associated with the monsoon trough and it is bringing heavy rain to the far north. The Bruce Highway near Ingham is shut due to flooding. The Dalrymple Creek at Trebon is running well above minor flood level, sitting about 2.5 to 3 metres over the road. Now, this area floods regularly this time of year, so it's not unprecedented, but it does paint the picture that conditions are wet up there and road closures are in effect. Compare that to what's happening down south and you've got a completely different story. A weak cold front is pushing through Bass Strait, dragging extremely warm air down from central Australia. And when I say extremely warm, I mean record-breaking temperatures that we rarely forecast with this level of confidence. Here's where it gets serious. Basically, all of Victoria, large parts of southern New South Wales and the lower southeast of South Australia are under extreme heatwave risk today. We don't use that term lightly. When I say extreme weather is coming, that is exactly what I mean. Let me give you the numbers because they re quite extraordinary. Mildura is forecast to reach 49 degrees Celsius. Keep in mind, Victoria's previous record is 48.8 degrees. The Bureau of Meteorology very rarely forecasts temperatures to exceed previous records. We've only seen that a handful of times, and today is one of those days. Melbourne is looking at a top of around 47 degrees. The city's all-time January record sits at 45.2 degrees, and that's likely to fall today. Now, I reckon that forecast might be slightly bullish for the official airport site, but there's no question that suburbs across Melbourne, particularly into the northwest, will hit 47 or 48 degrees. With the urban heat island effect, some areas will feel even hotter than that. If you don't have air conditioning or if you are worried about your air conditioner's reliability today, I strongly recommend you find a cooler location to spend the day, whether that's a library, a mate's place or a neighbour's house. You need to be somewhere cool. This is going to be a stinker, and I'm not exaggerating. There's a big difference between a 40-degree day and a 45-degree day. It doesn't sound like much, just 5 degrees, but trust me, it's the difference between standing near a warm oven and sticking your face into an industrial blast furnace. That is what some of these temperatures are going to feel like, particularly around Melbourne. Stay inside, stay hydrated. Avoid all strenuous physical activity. Check on elderly neighbours and mates who might not have adequate cooling. Look after your pets and livestock. This is serious heat. The heat does ease off slightly tomorrow for Victoria. Temperatures will drop back as a southerly change moves through. Melbourne will see tops in the high 20s or early 30s, which is still rather warm but much more manageable than today. The northwest will stay hot, pushing into the early 40s. But here is the thing, this heat doesn't disappear, it shifts. Thursday becomes the critical day for South Australia. Areas around Lake Eyre and through the inland will see temperatures of 48 pushing 49 degrees. Some spots around Lake Torrens, Murray and Tarcoola could get close to 50 degrees. Friday continues the pattern. Another possible 50-degree day around the Tarcoola area. Ceduna hit 49.5 yesterday, and they could go even warmer on Friday, or areas just north of Ceduna might crack 50 as the sea breeze comes in earlier and pushes the heat further inland. The heat draws back back north through Saturday into the more traditionally warm areas of Central Australia, but South Australia still sees very warm temperatures through the weekend. Then Sunday, this heat pushes up into New South Wales and Queensland. By that point, we back to a more normal pattern with the high pressure ridge in the Great Australian Bight pushing southerlies up through the southern states, keeping things milder. In terms of temperature percentiles, we're re-looking at 99th percentile temperatures through the remainder of the week. Just to put that in context, 96th percentile is where we start seeing heatwave warnings issued. 99th percentile is where we enter record-breaking territory. That S, exactly where we're going to be today, tomorrow, Thursday and Friday, particularly through South Australia, Victoria and New South Wales. Very, very warm temperatures expected, and also pockets of Queensland will be affected as well. Please stay safe, stay hydrated and stay inside. Now, there is an outside chance of a few thunderstorms developing later this arvo across southern Queensland, north of Brisbane and the Gold Coast. Shouldn't see much storm activity in the metro areas, but further north we could see some development. The northern parts of Queensland will continue to see showers and thunderstorms, particularly through the Gulf Country and Cape York. Let me talk about the rainfall situation up north in more detail, because this has been a significant event over the past few days. Far north Queensland has copped some pretty decent falls. The monsoon trough and tropical low 18U have been sitting over the region, bringing persistent heavy rain. We've had some locations record over 100 millimetres in 24 hours. With isolated falls much higher than that. The Herbert River is in minor flood. Nothing unusual for this time of year, but it's certainly wet. This rainfall is easing off throughout today, but we're not done yet. Tonight and into early tomorrow morning, the Cassowary Coast could see another 100 to 300 millimetres. There's a convergence zone developing as a monsoonal low-pressure system builds up near the Daintree rainforest, which will funnel moderate to heavy rain ashore. I expect significant rainfall accumulations to build south of the Cape York Peninsula and Cairns through Innisfail, Tully, Mission Beach, down to Cardwell, Ingham and Halifax. Those falls will develop later tonight into early tomorrow morning before clearing off tomorrow afternoon. You can see rainfall really beginning to ease and pull further north through Thursday, maybe a couple of showers Thursday and Friday for the Cassowary Coast and the Daintree, but nothing too significant. For those in affected areas, drive carefully. Road conditions are dodgy with flooding in multiple locations. The Bruce Highway closure near Ingham shows how serious the situation is. If it's flooded, forget it. Never drive through flood water. Check the Bureau of Meteorology for the latest flood warnings. Rainfall continues through the Northern Territory as well, and this is where things get interesting for the coming weekend. We're expecting a very enhanced monsoonal flow to really build through the end of this week into the weekend. As the remnants of tropical low 18U move up into the top end, wet weather is expected to kick in pretty much from Friday and persist right through the weekend and into early next week. Now, keep in mind this is monsoonal rainfall, so it is difficult to predict exactly how heavy it is going to be or how persistent. I expect this to be more shower-based rather than continuous rain. Through the top end, you will be looking at a couple of days of steady showers coming through. It'll be hit or miss in some locations, but by the end of it, widespread falls between 80 to 200 millimetres are expected, with isolated falls to 300 or 350 millimetres possible. If it comes in the form of heavier showers rather than lighter rain bands, we could see some significant totals around Darwin. The forecast models are showing around 300 millimetres for Darwin and similar amounts through the Gulf of Carpentaria. The GFS model is actually calling for some pretty extraordinary amounts, up to a metre in some spots over a 5-day period. The Icon model puts the bulk of it in the Gulf. Now, I am not putting full weight on those extreme figures, but it does paint the picture that we are looking at half-decent rainfall accumulations through the middle of next week. There's also a chance this system could redevelop into a tropical cyclone, particularly if it heads out towards the Indian Ocean. But I'm not putting too much weight on that signal at this point. We'll need to monitor it closely over the coming days, and that leads me to the longer range tropical cyclone outlook, which is definitely worth discussing. We've got some long-range tropical cyclone signals developing, particularly into the first week of February, that we need to continue monitoring. There's been a signal in the Coral Sea that looks like it might be a bust based on the latest modelling. It appears to skirt around New Caledonia and get absorbed by the jet stream. However, that would suggest something is likely to develop further north in the Coral Sea instead. The European model is showing something developing towards the far north Queensland coastline, but this is a very new signal, very fresh. We're not taking much notice of it for the next couple of days, but it's an interesting feature and definitely something to keep tabs on. One thing for sure, the Coral Sea is likely to see tropical cyclone activity through the second week of February and possibly through the first week as well. Forecast models are starting to show some consistency with something that may track towards the North Queensland coastline. But at this point, there isn't too much weight we can give to it, considering it is still a long-range signal and a trend we are watching, not an ironclad forecast. Conditions remain very favourable out in the Coral Sea. Sea temperatures are sitting at 29, pushing 30 degrees, particularly as you get closer to the Solomon Sea and Vanuatu. In the Gulf of Carpentaria, we're re-looking at bathwater temperatures, 31, pushing 32 degrees closer to the North Queensland coastline. Very, very warm indeed. That makes tropical cyclones more prone to producing heavy rainfall, which is quite concerning. If a tropical cyclone does track towards the Queensland coastline, particularly if it's a large system, it'll bring a serious amount of rainfall and flooding becomes a real problem. We've seen this pattern before, and you know how quickly things can deteriorate. But again, these are long-range signals. They're not ironclad forecasts at this point. We need to keep close tabs on the situation, and I'll have more updates throughout the week as the models come into better agreement. Now, let me circle back to the immediate concern, which is the extreme heat through southeastern Australia. I want to make sure everyone understands the practical steps you need to take. For those in Victoria today, this is as serious as it gets. If you in Melbourne or anywhere across the state, you're dealing with potentially record-breaking heat. Air conditioners will be working overtime. The electricity grid will be under strain. If there are power outages, which is possible, you need to be prepared. Have a plan. Know where you are going to go if the power goes out. Have water stored. If you are on medications that need refrigeration, have a backup plan. Check on vulnerable mates and neighbours, particularly the elderly. They were at higher risk in this kind of heat. Limit outdoor activity to early morning or late evening. If you must be outside during the day, wear light-coloured, loose-fitting clothing. Wear a hat. Use sunscreen. Drink water constantly, even if you don't feel thirsty. Don't wait until you are thirsty to drink. For those with livestock, make sure they have access to shade and plenty of water. This heat will stress animals significantly. The fire danger is also a major concern. With these temperatures and the extremely dry conditions we've had, the bushfire risk is elevated. Check the fire danger ratings from the Country Fire Authority. If a total fire ban is in place, that means absolutely no fires whatsoever. No barbecues, no campfires, nothing. If you are in a bushfire-prone area and conditions deteriorate, leaving early is always the safest option. Don't wait to see what happens. Catastrophic fire danger means conditions are the worst possible, and defending your property is not a safe option under those conditions. Know your bushfire plan and be ready to act on it. For South Australia, you've got a brief reprieve before Thursday hits. Use tomorrow and Wednesday to prepare. Stock up on supplies. Check your air conditioning. Make sure you've got plenty of water. Thursday will be your critical day, so don't get caught unprepared. New South Wales, particularly southern areas, you are dealing with the heat today and tomorrow. The pattern similar to Victoria. Inland areas will cop the worst of it, but even coastal regions will see temperatures well above average. The southerly change brings relief, but it takes time to push through. Queensland, you are dealing with two different situations. Up north, it is the rainfall and flooding. Down south, particularly inland, you are seeing warm to hot temperatures, but nothing like what Victoria is experiencing. Brisbane and the southeast coast are relatively mild compared to what is happening further south. Western Australia, UV got the remnants of ex-tropical cyclone Luana, bringing scattered showers and thunderstorms. Nothing too severe, but conditions are unsettled. The system S tracking south, so the southern parts of the state will see the activity move through. Tasmania, you were the lucky ones this week. Temperatures are mild, conditions are pleasant. Enjoy it while it lasts because patterns can shift quickly. Northern Territory, prepare for the wet weather building through the weekend. Darwin and the top end will see persistent showers and potentially heavy falls. Make sure drains are clear, secure anything that could blow around, and stock up on essentials before the weather sets in. Monsoonal conditions can make travel difficult and cut off some communities temporarily. Looking at the broader pattern, this heat wave is part of a classic setup we see during summer. Low pressure troughing across the continent, a weak cold front trying to push through the south, and superheated air from Central Australia being dragged down into areas that normally don't see these extreme temperatures. The thing about Melbourne hitting 47 degrees is that it's not just hot, it is dangerous. The City-S infrastructure isn't designed for that kind of heat. Buildings retain the warmth, roads can buckle, train lines can warp. This isn't a fear-mongering, it is reality. You've lived through hot days before, but this is at the upper end of what we can expect. Many of you remember Black Saturday in February 2009. Melbourne hit 46.4 degrees that day. Conditions were catastrophic. 173 people died in the bushfires that followed. This heat event won to reach that level of tragedy, we hope, but the temperatures are in the same ballpark. That should tell you how seriously to take this. The difference is we have better warning systems now, better communication, better preparation. The Bureau of Meteorology has improved its forecasting significantly. Emergency services are on alert, but you still need to do your part. Personal responsibility matters in these situations. For the rainfall up north, this is stock standard business for the wet season in far north Queensland. Flooding happens, roads close, creeks rise. It's part of living in that region this time of year, but that doesn't make it any less disruptive. If you re-travelling through the area, check road conditions before you leave. The Queensland Traffic website has the latest information on road closures. The monsoonal flow building into the Northern Territory is also typical for late January. The build-up transitions into the wet season and we see these periods of persistent rainfall. Darwin locals know the drill. It is humid, it rains, it clears, it rains again. Just how it goes. But these accumulations look like they could be above average, so it's worth paying attention. The long-range tropical cyclone signals are interesting but not immediately concerning. We still 8 to 10 days out from potential development. Models change significantly at that range. What looks like a strong signal today might disappear tomorrow or vice versa. The key is to stay informed without getting worked up over maybes and possibles. Cyclone season runs through to April and we typically see the most activity in February and March. So whether it has this particular system or another one that develops later, North Queensland and the Northern Territory need to remain vigilant through the next couple of months. Sea temperatures are certainly conducive to development and the atmospheric conditions look favourable. If you're in cyclone-prone areas, now a good time to review your cyclone plan if you haven't already. Make sure you've got supplies stockpiled, water, non-perishable food, batteries, torches, first aid kit, medications. If you're in a caravan or temporary structure, know where you are going to relocate if a cyclone threat develops. Solid shelter is essential for anything Category 3 and above. The heat through the southern states will break eventually. We'll see a more typical pattern return next week with the high pressure ridge re-establishing in the Bight and pushing those cooler southerlies up through the region. But we need to get through the next few days first. Temperature records are made to be broken and today we're likely to see several fall. Mildura S49 degrees, if it verifies, will be a new Victorian record. Melbourne potentially breaking its January record. These aren't just numbers on a chart. They represent real conditions that real people are dealing with. Stay safe out there, stay hydrated, stay inside during the hottest part of the day, look after each other, particularly those who are vulnerable. And keep an eye on the forecast because things can change. I'll have more updates as we track these systems through the week. The tropical outlook will become clearer in the coming days. The heat will shift and eventually ease. The rainfall up north will clear. But for now, we deal with what's in front of us. This is significant weather. It deserves your attention. But it's not the end of the world. You've seen extreme weather before. You know how to handle it. Just don't underestimate this one. Take care. Stay